So starting off with fussy eaters kind of versus problem feeders. And the reason that I want to start here is because all the things that I'm going to talk about today, we really are thinking about just fussy eating. Okay, so the kind of children where their parents are talking, saying, oh, they're quite fussy, they're quite picky, but not the children that really don't eat anything. So if I'm going to go through and differentiate between the two. So first of all, with your fussy eaters, they're generally children that eat more than 30 foods, okay? And that is all the different individual foods. So for example, you know, somebody might say, oh, my child eats bolognese, if we use that as an example, and they might see that as one food, whereas I would see that as pasta, mincemeat, tomatoes, carrots, onions. Do you see what I mean? So we really are looking at individual foods. So a fussy eater generally eats more than 30 foods. They will drop a food after what we call a food jag. So food jagging is when a child eats the same food repeatedly until they get bored of it and then they drop it. Okay, so you will get some children that just for breakfast, they will only eat Cheerios, nothing else at all. And then they'll eat that for weeks on end. And then they get so bored of it, they drop it. Okay. But a normal fussy eater will normally start to eat that food again after a couple of weeks break. Okay. A fussy eater will tolerate having a new food on the plate. They won't necessarily eat it, but they'll generally tolerate it being there. They eat food from at least one food from most food groups. So if we're thinking about sort of carbohydrates, which is all your bread, rice, potato, pasta, those kind of foods, and you've got your protein rich foods, so your meat, your fish, your nuts, your eggs, fruits and vegetables, etc. Even if they only eat one food from each group, they are normally classed as a general fussy eater. We also look at texture groups. So a fussy eater will generally eat foods from at least one of these textures. Textural preferences are very, very common in fussy eaters. So you'll get, it's one of the first things I kind of look out for. Children tend to lean towards chewy or crunchy foods, or they lean towards soft foods. So if I was looking at, you know, the diary of a child's food from their whole day, a fussy eater generally eats one food from each thing. So, you know, for your puree, they might have yogurt or Weetabix or something. So, you know, they might have sandwiches, they might have crunchy stuff. Even if there's only, you know, a few foods represented, a fussy eater generally will eat from all of them. They generally eat with the family, and their parents sometimes refer to them as fussy. On the flip side of that, we've got problem feeders. These are the children that really their eating is having a big impact on their life and everybody's life around them. So they tend to eat less than 20 foods. Some of the foods that, you know, are really fussy eaters, they might only eat 2 or 3 foods, complete, nothing else at all. If they drop foods after a food jag, they tend to not return to it. They definitely don't accept new foods on the plate. It's very stressful. They refuse entire food groups. So, you know, you might have a child that will only eat crunchy carbohydrates. So they'll have dry Cheerios for breakfast, they'll have crackers at lunchtime, and, you know, for dinner, they'll have chips or something. Whole texture groups will be refused. They very rarely sit and eat with the family because their eating habits are so different to the rest of the family that it's a very stressful situation for everybody. And their parents will always refer to them as fussy eaters. I mean, it becomes all encompassing for some families that, you know, this food stuff basically takes over their life for the child and the parent, and it's very, very stressful. So just to kind of reiterate and re-stress that what we're thinking about today are fussy eaters, and you know, that's quite a useful table, because, you know, even a child that seems to you, gosh, this child is so fussy, when you think about it like that, actually, you know, it's an easy way to kind of establish where they sit.